just got wrecked.
What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Tuesday. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome week so far. Having a look at what is going on, Bitcoin is down 2.92%. We're sitting at around $11,040, which, yes, means we are below 11,100, which is a very critical level. You can see over here, actually, on the futures, we're just pushing even lower and lower. Bitcoin futures on Bybit are sitting at around $10,930. So what is going on right now? Well, we did have the news that came out that said the Bitcoin ETF decision delayed again by the US SEC, but is that really why we're seeing prices fall? I mean, this was to be expected. Did anyone actually think that the ETF was going to be approved? I mean, I certainly didn't. So we're going to talk about why the price is still falling. I mean, didn't Goldman Sachs just come out with a memo yesterday telling their clients to buy? So that actually was financial advice. So what's going on, Goldman Sachs? I want my money back. No. Seriously, let's dive in. Let's have a look because there's a lot of fundamentals specifically that I think have a lot to do with the price action as well, not just the technical. So we're going to talk about that today. In fact, today's going to be a very fundamentally driven episode. So kick back, relax, put on a set of headphones if you have to, and just listen to what we have to say today because I think zooming out and having a look at the big picture really helps to clarify a lot of this irrationality that we're seeing on these lower time frames. So that being said, if that sounds good to you, well, you know what to do. Also, if it's your first time checking out the Crypto Zombie channel and you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We do this every single day. And as you guys know, every single Monday, we do the Ledger Nano S giveaway. All you gotta do is drop a comment on any video. And then we pick a winner randomly on Monday. Now, currently, Bitcoin dominance is down 0.1%. So where is it going? Well, you are noticing that Tether is up 0.09%. So this time, it's telling me that it's not going necessarily into just the altcoins, but it might be going into the stable coins. Investors could be anticipating lower lows happening a lot faster than we had expected, right? Now, having a look at some gainers, we do have some big gainers today. ABBC coin, Japan Content, Clipper, Hedge Trade, Komodo. By the way, that whole Bits Pay thing that was pumping yesterday totally dumped. So I really hope none of you guys got in on that because obviously it was clearly a pump and dump. But, oh, here it is right here. BitUSD down 48%. Look at this volume, $6,726. Yeah. So that was unfortunate. You're also noticing another coin that's down today, Veritaseum. They've had some kind of bad news come out. We're going to get into that. Hope nobody was holding that. But hey, on the bright side, I'm sure your day is not as bad as people that were holding this coin, right? So having a look at the fear and greed index, you can see we are in full on fear right now, 45. Oh, before we move on, guys, I wanted to say thank you. I meant to say this yesterday. Guys, we just passed 80,000 subscribers. We have 80,263 now. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I never would have ever dreamt of having this many subscribers. Totally almost slipped my mind. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Next stop, 100K, so I can get one of those check marks and one of those cool little silver play buttons that I've been wanting for so long. So, all right, side note, you can see right here. Thank you guys, though. Seriously, you're amazing. So looking over here, we are seeing mild sells across the board, a little bit of neutral on Bitflyer, but you are noticing that the shorts are up to 55%. Not surprising. That's what we're seeing basically happen right here. So having a look, you are noticing that we still are maintaining this parabolic advance, okay, which is good. We're staying within the trend lines. However, this is the problem. We just fell below this major support right here, this downwards trend, and also this sideways support that we had at around 11,100. Now, isn't it interesting, though, how we literally breached it right as both of those points intersected? It was a very, very critical level. We'd spoken about it for a few days on the channel, and, well, looks like we are still going to the downside. Now, moving over here, you'll notice that we are inside of the blue zone. Now, this is a critical zone. We still have the potential to be supported kind of around this $10,900 level, okay? But if we fall below that, then we are headed to some of these lower levels. Hopefully we'll get supported by this parabolic trend, but if we don't, then we could see ourselves fall below 10,100, and the ultimate critical level would be that $9,800 level, because if we fall below that, then all we have is this last support that is pretty much around 9,000 even, and beyond that, there's really not much else. So Hopefully we don't go lower than that, and I think that's why Goldman Sachs had even mentioned some of those levels as their, okay, don't buy anymore at these levels, right? But the thing that I wanted to point out real quick, because like I said, I don't want to talk about tons of price action today. We've been talking about price action for a long time, every day now pretty much. But having a look at this, you could see we're clearly putting in a giant wedge right here that looks like it wants to have a breakout or a breakdown around the beginning of September, which means we could be looking at another 2 weeks of sideways accumulation where we could stay range bound. We could come down to about 10,200, bounce up to 11,800 and just keep consolidating in this period, right? And I do think that that's what a lot of people out there are thinking that might be happening right now. For example, Murad Mahmoudov, definitely one of my favorite analysts out there. If you guys aren't following him on Twitter, you can see he says, at first glance, this looks like a weak chop for the next week or so. But my intuition tells me there is a steady accumulation happening at these levels. Don't try to outsmart yourself on short-term time frames. Zoom out. Think big. In my opinion, Bitcoin is going to $100,000. So he is still holding that $100,000 level. And you can see right here, he says a number of confluences pointing to that level on the daily as well. Goes without saying, this is not financial advice, but if I were a betting man, I would be patiently and slowly adding at every key support. And we spoke about this the other day. Pretty much any of these levels underneath that $13,900 level is a blessing, because as soon as we close above that, there is no turning back. We are not going to be seeing these lower levels ever again. So for everybody running to the hills and freaking out about Bitcoin's price going down, this is a blessing, especially if you just got in. And trust me, I'm in no rush to break 20K because I know what's going to happen when we do. It's going to be absolute madness, and I'm more than happy to stay at some of these levels and continue to accumulate sideways. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out super quick is you can even see on the gold charts. Now, this is gold. Gold actually peaked at about $1,549, and that was that yesterday, or was that was actually this morning? Actually, which is pretty crazy. And you can see even gold has had a bit of a pullback this morning from 1,548 to 1,512. So gold had a little bit of a pullback, Bitcoin having a little bit of a pullback. Why am I talking about gold? Well, you're going to see in just a minute, because I think that gold and Bitcoin together are definitely becoming that hedge against what is happening geopolitically. But before we move on, to really just kickstart the video, I think it's most important to play this clip. If you guys haven't seen this, this is 5 years old. It's nothing new, but man, if these words aren't more applicable today than they ever were. This is Godfrey Bloom, and this is what he said, and I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm afraid to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
And I couldn't have said it better myself. And this is exactly what I mean when I say zoom out. I don't necessarily mean literally zoom out of the chart. I mean almost just zoom out of this way of thinking. Zoom out of this little bubble that we're in for just a second and realize that Bitcoin was created as a hedge against this type of a system, against these governments that just relentlessly inflate the price of their currency, right? We have Bitcoin, which is censorship resistant by nature. It is the most secure blockchain on planet Earth. It is basically an immutable accounting system, okay? Deflationary by nature. We have the halving event coming up in May of 2020 next year. And not to mention that, you can see right here, the general consensus on the matter is that millennials do not trust banks. This research was conducted last year by international research and analytics firm Edelman Intelligence, which showed that 77% of prosperous millennials see the traditional banking system being designed in favor of the rich and powerful rather than the working class. The conducted research shows that the lack of trust led to the same nearly 4 out of 5 respondents to predict that another international financial crisis was just around the corner due to bad behavior of the current banking system. So check this out. 75% of these millennials were concerned about the global financial system in that it was a risk of, or it was at risk of being hacked, causing the respondents concern about the potential loss of their own private financial information. According to Edelman's study, around a quarter of wealthy millennials own cryptocurrency. Another 31% are interested in crypto, and a huge 74% put their trust in blockchain as a much safer system than the international finance space that's currently available to them right now. And switching it over to BK, he spoke about Goldman Sachs recently talking about buying Bitcoin, and he had something to say in response to this as well.
What's been going on, Bitcoin's been trading right with gold for the first time since I started talking about it in 2013. Macro players and other investors are actually using Bitcoin as a currency hedge. So that's starting to happen, but it's pure speculation. We need to see some buyers come in, some real buyers.
So Biggs, it seems like that Bitcoin has just kind of owned the entire crypto asset space in the last year and a half or something. Are you seeing this massive shift? Because this move has been really substantial. And the fact, one of the bull cases, I kind of think back to 17, I can't even remember what they were, but it was, other than momentum, was that it was uncorrelated to traditional risk assets. So are we seeing that play out? Is that why we're seeing the ability for this move to kind of stay put because macro players are trading it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect storm for Bitcoin. You have multiple currencies around the world breaking down at the same time that institutional investors are actually embracing this asset class. So the combination of those two things have funneled all the money into Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin's outperformed so much in this environment.
So I think it's very apparent that there is a perfect storm right now for Bitcoin, despite the fact that, yes, prices are falling right now. The reality is that we are still inside of this giant triangle, which we've talked about, right? That's just looking at the charts. We do have a lot lower that we could go. We could go down to that $9,300 level, right? But looking at what is happening worldwide right now, you are seeing Bitcoin becoming that global hedge. In fact, if you look right over here, Bitcoin skyrocketed to a $900 premium, which was well above Coinbase over on the Argentinian crypto exchange Buenabit Monday. The massive spike came directly after the announcement of a primary election loss by President Macri, and the nation's stocks, bonds, and currency had been sent plummeting in one of the biggest intraday slides on record. You can see right here, in 5 hours, Bitcoin saw a 30% increase against the Argentine peso on Buenabit, peaking at around $12,300 if we were to change it over to US, okay? And that was during a time when it was only $11,400 on Coinbase, not to mention that trading volumes on Buenos Aires-based Buenabit hit their 3-month all-time high during this influx. And you can see right here on the chart, that was absolutely incredible, absolutely massive. And you could also see cryptocurrency demand has soared in Hong Kong as these protests are continuing. They say Hong Kong has become a technocratic battleground where cryptocurrencies are playing an important role. So basically, Telegram chat rooms where protesters are discussing tactics are being targeted by Chinese servers. Facial recognition technology has caused much of the public to go rogue. You can see right here, This person says there's literally usually never a line at the train ticketing machines. Judging from an overhead convo, it appears that people are reluctant to use their rechargeable octopus cards for fear of leaving a paper trail on them having been at the protests. So you can see that when the protests had began, in mid-June, Bitcoin was selling at about $160 premium, and it is still at an $80 premium today. In fact, there's some 39 Bitcoin or cryptocurrency ATMs in the cities. Many restaurants are also embracing this as well. Now, they say cryptocurrencies are the key. Now, this is especially relevant considering that, obviously China itself, mainland China, can't trade cryptos due to the statewide ban. Hong Kong, on the other hand, can and has been a nexus of blockchain-related development for years. Its lax laws are a sharp contrast to the Chinese mainland, yet another extension of one country, two systems policy. But once again, you are seeing cryptocurrency be the go-to, and not to mention that there's various data sets, such as the majority of Tether's on-chain volume, showing that it's coming from China. And in the rise of inflow, there's capital coming from institutional investors as well. This has been proven by Grayscale Investments. They've indicated that investors are at least considering the possibility of Bitcoin operating as an alternative store of value. So if investors continue to seek out for alternative stores of value other than bonds and precious metals, you have former Wall Street portfolio manager Travis Kling noted that Bitcoin is the leader of store of values. It has been the absolute best performing asset, outperforming virtually everything, the S&P 500, you name it. He says, to be clear, Bitcoin is far away the leader in the store of value use case. There's only a few other cryptos that could even be argued for consideration of comparison, and their cases are all overmatched. And guys, like I said, we just talking about this overall trend. Yeah, so now Bitcoin is below. We are below 8,000 and falling. But like I said, we most likely will be supported by this parabolic advance, which if we were to fall straight down right now, and I was even saying 9,300 just to give more of the bearish argument, but we'll probably most likely get stomped out at around $10,000 and continue sideways. Guys, the trend is your friend until the end. The trend is still up. The trend is still up, my friends. We are just doing some major consolidating. This is honestly going to be one of the greatest times to accumulate. And I think once Bitcoin finally does breach above this sort of, $13,863 level, well, then honestly, I just think people are going to be really pissed that they didn't accumulate more. So I wouldn't freak out so much about the price going down if you believe in it long term. If you're day trading, well, hey, if you think it's going to go lower, short the bitch, right? Do it. If you think Bitcoin's going to go lower, short it. That's the beauty of being able to trade on futures, right? So, but yeah, long term, I'm definitely bullish on this. So you do what you want short term, but I hope those fundamentals help to, really let you know what is going on right now. Now, obviously, we can look at data as well. There's so many different facets, right? Actually, yesterday, you had Jay Rodriguez from Invector Labs. He basically said that he believes Bitcoin does remain bullish, even though we have fallen quite a lot from that $13,800 level. According to Rodriguez, the majority of speculation surrounding Bitcoin price has been focused on macroeconomic factors like the US-China trade war. I agree. That's been probably the majority of this video, right? While these are incredibly relevant factors that are clearly impacting Bitcoin price, Rodriguez suggests that investors take a deeper look beyond the macroeconomic perspective and analyze blockchain data. So pretty much he says that nearly 90% of Bitcoin investors are in the money. There are also nearly 1 million addresses with positions acquired near Bitcoin's current price, which is interesting because Brian Kelly came out and said that we're not seeing a lot of new addresses, but he's saying we actually have seen new addresses, maybe not as in like the past week or so, but definitely this year alone, right? Also, if Into the Blocks break-even analysis primarily focuses on realized gains, and the indicator shows that Bitcoin's next strong support resistance is around $10,400. So we could be headed there. Rodriguez also pointed out that as Bitcoin price rose, so did the number of active addresses, and this is a sign of growing strength within the Bitcoin network. Even more interesting is the fact that the majority of new Bitcoin investors actually accumulated Bitcoin before the current price rally. Very interesting. So essentially, Rodriguez is saying that the current macroeconomic factors are reflective of long-term structural challenges that have long existed in various economics and are just now showing themselves. So that is definitely crazy. And yeah, I think that's about enough for the Bitcoin fundamentals for right now. Let's talk about some altcoins and then let's get on out of here, guys, because I think you know how I feel about this. Short term, could be a bumpy ride. Long term, you got, oh man, you can already see the people that are kicking themselves. Once Bitcoin is back to like 15, 16, 17, like, damn, I wish I bought more under 14, right? Especially when it was 10 again, right? Blessing in disguise. So quick poll, will Ethereum ever trade above $1,000 again? I don't know, just figured it'd be a fun way to start this off. But I do want to point out something that happened to XRP on BXC Exchange. Now, this is insane. They say trading is currently frozen for XRP BTC pairs. Now, look at this. So it was trading at around, it was up here. And this is in sats. So, but anyway, long story short, it took a plummet all the way down almost 96%. I mean, literally in like a minute. This was insane. So basically what they think is that this was a coordinated XRP dump. You could see there was a statement that came out from Biaxi, and they said exchanges were targeted within an XRP partial payment exploit today. Biaxi was also targeted in this. We've identified and applied a fix. In addition, KYC has allowed us to identify participants in this incident, and we are going to pursue action against them. However, Mr. H says, it's not an XRP exploit. It's a wrong installation of the wallet, meaning you didn't read correctly how to install or follow any of the well-documented instructions. You were vulnerable based on your own mistakes, not because of XRP. I hope this is very clear. So I'm not too sure about that, but let me know what your opinion is on that. But they are working to get everyone refunded, and they said that they are going to do the right thing, but just give them time and you will be refunded. Now, here's something that's not very good for Veritaseum, and this is why this is down 51% today. Well, it looks like Veritaseum is facing emergency action from the SEC regarding its allegedly fraudulent token offering in 2017. So CEO Reggie Middleton is at the center of the court filing, which states this is an emergency action to stop the defendant's further dissipation of the approximately $8 million of investor proceeds that remain from approximately $14.8 million that they fraudulently raised in 2017. You can see Richard Hart, he actually posted about it. The court filing by the SEC also makes accusations claiming that Middleton knowingly misled investors about the prior business ventures, as well as touting outsized and fictitious investor demand for the VERI token. He allegedly claimed that the product was ready to generate millions of dollars worth of revenue when no such product existed. Wow, so the SEC filing gets even more damning for Middleton, who is accused of placing secretive and manipulative trades into the digital asset platform, inflating the price by 350% in one day before boasting about the gains on social media. Gotta be honest with you guys, I never really got Veritaseum. It was a project I just never could really wrap my head around. So yeah, I don't really know. But anyway, looks like it was down 70%. Now it's only down 50%. So it has pulled, oh, nope, it's down 64% again. So yeah, guys, you got to be careful with some of these altcoins, man. You got to be careful. So speaking of altcoins, Icon Foundation is launching a $3 million, or not $1 million, a 3 million giveaway of ICX tokens. So basically all iconists who have ICX tokens in their wallet can participate in the upcoming election and bag their share of the giveaway. So Icon will update its wallet later this August, which will allow the electorate to determine the percentage of tokens that will be used for staking during the overall vote. And finally, I want to end on some positive news today, because it's not necessarily the greatest day in cryptocurrency to have to watch Bitcoin fall some more today. Well, a leading bank technology provider in Latin America is partnering with cryptocurrency exchange ByteX to facilitate cross-border payments over the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So BanTotal is a core banking service provider based in Uruguay that services over 60 different financial institutions across 14 different countries. So according to BanTotal spokesperson, an estimated 20 million people use BanTotal's money management services. It says BanTotal is one of the biggest banking providers in Latin America and is a huge player not just in Latin America, but the greater Pacific, calling it a quantum leap forward for banks in Latin America. average fees associated with cross-border payments are up to 5 times cheaper using BiteX than international wire transfers. Essentially, they act as the middleman where they convert the fiat for you and they send Bitcoin in the middle. So essentially, it's kind of like they're doing what Ripple does with XRP, but they're doing it with Bitcoin. So interesting why they chose Bitcoin and not XRP. Interesting, very interesting. But that being said, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. That is it for today. Having a look at what is going on. What are we doing over here on futures? Well, we've come up a little bit. We're still struggling at that $11,000 level. But like I said, guys, there's a good chance that we do come down and touch this, and we may even come down to the very bottom of this triangle and touch the $9,300 level, which would be the support right here, okay? But that being said, guys, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. It's going to be a bit